said I'm back. But no one showing up would have been. No. 100% not acceptable at all.
How do you get out? How do you get out? That's all I want. How do you like that? Everybody knows Rosie, but no one knows you.
Do I just give it to you on a Tuesday? It's on the agenda. I know it's changed.
Monday prior to the board agenda. Todd and I look at it, and if we don't believe it needs to go forward, we send it to the committee.
If it's what?
If it doesn't need to go forward, it'll go to the committee.
Okay.
Like, what is it about?
I haven't made up my mind yet.
Come talk to me when it's solid.
Yeah. It's to do with chairs, the chairs and vice chairs. It's going to be too political. People
well, there only the opportunity. There is no opportunity. This was the opportunity.
Oh, no, I don't care who they are. I want the process. I don't like the process. Number one, I don't like it's not set aside 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It's depending on who's there and who likes that person. And I get 2 or 3 phone calls this week. Like I tell everybody the same. I don't come with anybody. I say no.
I make my decision the night
Yeah, I say no. I
after.
say
You can't stop people from
oh, no,
doing
no,
that before.
it's been going on.
I know.
The
Remember
things
when we
that-
used to
Yeah, let's see. So that's, yeah, I try to use count the votes. I'm not inferring anything.
Okay.
But like I said to one, I said, you know, if I say yeah to you, and if my buddy was 60 cents over a chair, like, you know, they say, well, she was looking at this.
She's looking through us.
What's she saying? Oh, okay.
Soulless people.
We're little people.
I don't know. Okay, then. Sorry?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our board meeting for Monday, November 20th. At this time, we kindly ask that you stand for the singing of our national anthem.
Thank you.
Thank you. All of the vocalists came out this evening for that rendition. Yep, very good. Once again, thank you and welcome to our board meeting this evening. We do have regrets from Trustee Don Danko. Trustee Greg Van Geffen is on his way and will be here shortly. Otherwise, everyone else is in attendance, so welcome to trustees, staff, members of our local media, those joining us in the gallery, the ones we're recognizing this evening. And we are web streaming as we do every board meeting, so you can watch yourself later. And who knows, there could be thousands of people watching at home right now, potentially. So at this time, without any further ado, profiling excellence. And this is the opportunity once a month to recognize those accomplishments across our board for staff and students. So we introduce first Sharon Safanian, our superintendent of all things wonderful. Sharon.
Thank you, Chair White, and thank you for the introduction. And as Chair White has indicated, this is the time each month when we pause and we recognize the accomplishments of both our students and our staff outside of the walls of HWDSB, as well as inside the walls of our schools and classrooms. So this evening, trustees have in front of them one student recognition, Nifea Robinson, a student from Sherwood Secondary School. And unfortunately, Nifea is unable to join us this evening. So we will congratulate Nifea on the Outstanding Midget Sprinter Hurdler Award in her absence. Moving into staff recognitions, our first staff recognition this evening is Cynthia Lee from Sherwood Secondary School. And Cynthia has received the Cralo Award for Excellence in Guidance. Unfortunately, Cynthia also had a conflict with our board meeting this evening. I'm just going to do a double check. I'm getting nods from the Sherwood team. So please join me in congratulating Cynthia in her absence. Next up this evening, we have a number of recipients who we are going to be recognizing for OFIA Healthy School Awards. And very fitting as we are at the beginning of Bullying Awareness and Prevention Week, that we are recognizing schools for the incredible work that they're doing in building healthy schools. So first up this evening, I would like to invite Dawn Adams from Ancaster High to come forward to receive a Profiling Excellence Award for her leadership in helping Ancaster High to earn a silver medal. So first I need to thank Dawn for making a second appearance in the Education Center at a board meeting. We had a little bit of a mix-up last month and Dawn arrived a month early, so very happy to see Dawn back this evening to receive this recognition for the great work at Ancaster. So the team at Ancaster High was comprised of students, staff, and community partners from a variety of different clubs. The Health Action Team, the Positive Space Group, Student Council, and the Girls Athletic Association all came together to support this important work. It was decided collectively that the most impact would be by focusing on mental health and well-being for both the staff and the students at Ancaster High. The team held several events during the school year, such as positive messages and sources of support during Anti-Bullying Week, a holiday house, mini relaxation sessions during exams, and stress tips for grade 9. A Day of Pink celebration, along with sessions and guest speakers for grade 9 students. And in order to connect all of the pieces together, they tied each event to the 5 ways to mental well-being that's part of our Hamilton Public Health Initiative. Their success in silver certification was due to collaboration of many students and staff during the year, and Dawn's leadership was absolutely instrumental. The school shared that without Dawn taking on the leadership role that she did, the school would not have been able to bring the various groups together and work through a process to this end result. I don't believe I mentioned that Dawn is the head of Girls Phys Ed at Ancaster High. So Dawn, on behalf of all of us, thank you for your dedication and your commitment to making Ancaster High a healthy school, and congratulations on your award. I would now like to invite Janet French from Sherwood Secondary School to come forward to also receive a Profiling Excellence Award for her leadership in supporting Sherwood Secondary School and also receiving an OFIA Healthy Schools Certification Silver Medal. Janet is described as being a driving force behind the health action team at Sherwood Secondary School for many years. She has encouraged many students to adopt healthier lifestyles and has also had that impact on her colleagues at the school. Janet is a highly skilled coach, particularly in field hockey, too many fields in that sentence. And in addition to working directly at Sherwood, she's also involved in our system healthcare program and is a teacher over at Jurvansky Hospital for one line a day. I believe in the afternoon. She's at that particular site in the afternoon. That particular role allows her to continue to demonstrate and promote the importance of learning and well-being. I asked Janet to tell me a little bit about her involvement in OFIA Healthy Schools and why she became involved and why it was important. And you could see instantly how her face lit up as she talked about conversation that the department had, where the department had indicated that this was a priority for the school and that the department head was looking for someone within the department to take on a leadership role and to lead this initiative on behalf of the school. And Janet was very enthusiastic and anxious to say, I think this is really important. I think we need to build healthier lives for our students and for ourselves. And so it was a commitment that she took on behalf of the school, which has led to a silver medal. So Janet, on behalf of all of us, thank you for your leadership in making Sherwood a healthier place, and congratulations on your award. Our next team this evening is a team from Westmount Secondary School. So I would like to invite Nancy Holmes and Lynn Cope to come forward to receive a Profiling Excellence Award on behalf of their recognition from OFIA as a participant in the Healthy Schools certification process. When I met Lynn and Nancy this evening, they shared with me, so we're kind of embarrassed being here to receive a certificate for being participants. No, wait. First they told me they were rowdy, and they said, where do the rowdy people sit in the audience? And I said, be careful. You don't want to tell me that. I'll share it at the microphone. But then they talked about, feeling, I think they said they feel awkward being here to receive a certificate for participation. But then we had an opportunity to talk, and again, very quickly, I was able to experience firsthand their commitment and their passion for creating a healthy school at Westmount. Now, interestingly enough, this is a year-long process, and they only engaged in the process beginning in January of the past school year. So there wasn't the opportunity for them to work through the process as a school and to gain points, as it were, through the entire 10-month period. But they did share with me that already this year, as we are standing here, they've accumulated more points towards becoming a healthy school between September and today than they did last year entirely. So they are definitely en route to being back here next year with a medal. And to tell you a little bit about the leadership of these two individuals, Lynn is very involved in the school at Westmount and working with students, and has worked closely as the teacher advisor for student council, started the dance marathon at Westmount, and yearly supports fundraising for sick kids. Lynn ran Healthy Schools at Mountain Secondary with Nancy, and, as I mentioned, introduced and brought that program forward to Westmount last year. She's been at Westmount for 8 years. Lynn teaches health and phys ed and actually was instrumental in introducing the aquatics course at the school and also is involved in teaching English. So on behalf of all of us, Lynn, thank you for your leadership. I said English, it's science. Did I say English? I looked at your face when I said it and I went, I must have said that wrong. Science, not English. Lynn, thank you for your leadership. Congratulations. Nancy can't leave yet, though. Nancy has been teaching for, okay, she said don't say. Okay, I won't say. Double-digit years. How about that? We'll just say double-digit years, and was at Barton for many of those years. And Nancy shared with me that her sister was a student at the Mohawk Trail Schoolhouse out back, and she often reminds her sister that she can come out and visit her school anytime that she would like to. Predominantly, Nancy's been teaching physical education and mathematics. She has been a coach every year, even the year that I believe she was on maternity leave. She brought the baby along and continued to coach. Involved in volleyball, touch football, softball, and tennis, and was instrumental in creating a nutrition program at Barton Secondary School as well. Again, has taken a very active role in ensuring a strong, healthy action team at the school, connecting both staff and students, and the importance of overall well-being. So please join me in thanking Lynn and Nancy for their leadership. We know we'll see them back here next year with a medal awarded from OFIA, and thank you for your leadership in bringing this important work to the school. And last up this evening is our final staff recognition and our final OFIA Healthy School certification. I would like to invite Rosie Cott to come forward to receive a Profiling Excellence Award. Rosie brought the OFIA Healthy Schools initiative to Sir William Osler last year, and in the first year of involvement, managed to bring home gold. I think we need applause for first year and gold. Described as an energetic and dedicated teacher, Ms. Cott focuses on making a difference for who we are, both as individuals, but also thinking about our entire wellness as a human being. She's described as always thinking about wellness for both staff and students, the importance of active breaks, and learning that connects to leading healthy lives for everyone each and every day. She shares her positivity and enthusiasm school-wide on a daily basis and is very easily able to motivate others to take up challenges. Her leadership is so valued, and she shares it with the Healthy Action Team, Go Girls, and the NBA Nutrition Break activities, and much, much more at Sir William Osler. Rosie always chooses kindness and inspires all of us to be better people and to take care of each other. Needless to say, very clear and evident how her passion translates into action and into improved outcomes for the students at Sir William Osler. Thank you for your leadership, Rosie, and on behalf of all of us, thank you for your work at Sir William Osler. And that concludes Profiling Excellence for this month.
Thank you very much. And thank you to all the staff and students that we recognize today, as they have already made their way out. But many thanks to them, of course, for hearing all of those great stories today. We'll move to item number 4, approval of the agenda. Looking for a trustee to move in second. Trustee Beatty and Trustee Deeth. Thank you. Questions or comments on the public agenda? All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Declarations of conflict of interest. Any declarations? Seeing none, there is no correspondence, so scratch number 6. Moving right to item number 7, which is our Governance Committee report from November 7th. As chair of the committee, I'm going to turn the chair of this meeting over to Vice Chair Beatty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you'd be so kind as to bring forward the Governance Committee report.
Thank you very much. So there are 2 items, Mr. Chair, on the governance report. Both are monitoring, so information for trustees. The first one is referral from the board, and this was the letter from Halton District School Board regarding student trustees and moving motions. So this went to our governance committee back on the 7th, and we read the letter carefully from Halton District School Board, as well as attached the original letter from the Student Trustees Association. And looking at both letters, we realized that Halton had actually edited their letter. The original student trustee letter had 2 suggestions within. Halton seemed to have picked one of them and then added a caveat or 2 to that. And also reviewing Halton's letter, they had copied us for information but did not request us to send our own letter of support. So there wasn't a direct ask from Halton. So upon review, we did not feel as a committee that it would be necessary or appropriate to simply mirror Halton's interpretation. And then looking at the original student trustee letter, we discussed that. There were 2 items. One was the concept of moving and seconding motions. The other one was that student trustees have a binding vote. So those were the 2 recommendations. So the committee had a brief discussion of both of those items. While there was recognition that we want to increase student voice to the best possible capacity, on those 2 items, it wasn't clear to the committee in terms of what we would be advocating to the ministry in terms of a binding vote and the implications of moving and seconding motions. So with that, the committee received the information and decided to take no action, but of course through our regular annual processes, obviously continue to review our protocol with our superintendent assigned to the student trustee and slipping my mind now for all of a second. No, student senate, thank you. So through those processes, making sure that we review what we have available to us, and of course maximizing the participation of student trustees and all students for that matter. So that's the first monitoring item. The second is trustee special committees. This was regarding meeting dates and times. So the committee had discussed different schedules. We had previously reported in previous meetings that we were trying to better utilize Monday nights and possibly use info session nights to move to board meeting nights with timed items, as well as trying to locate a number of committee dates to Monday nights, namely Governance Committee, Human Resources Committee, and Program Committee. The committee also looked at finance and policy, knowing that those schedules would be difficult to put on a Monday evening, especially because of the frequency of the meetings and the length of the meetings. So those tentatively are suggested for Wednesday afternoon and Wednesday evening. Mind you, these are only suggestions, so while the template was created, it's simply there as a suggestion for the committees when they're formed in December, and through the committee chair and the committee members, they can add extra meetings, they can move the regular meetings, but in terms of an ongoing template and structure, the governance committee has prepared it as a suggestion. And lastly, item C, there is a third, and this is trustee committee listings. So Each year in November, the Governance Committee looks at our listings in terms of our committees that we elect at the first meeting in December, known as our initial meeting, or the inaugural meeting for the one every 4-year cycle. But in terms of this upcoming December, the committee did not make any changes in terms of the committees themselves. However, the committee did discuss the election process and the order of elections as well. So the one suggested change, and this is an action, it's only monitoring because our rules do allow some flexibility in terms of how nominations are made. But essentially, we recommended the following sequence be used when creating the initial board agenda when it comes to trustee special committees and electing chairs. So nominations would be received for all trustee special committee chairs first, before the committee itself is formed, and then second, vote on committee chairs once all nominations are received and the nomination process is closed. So in other words, to put that simply, our previous practice would be to choose members of a committee, and then one of those members could run for chair. The alternate version suggested in this report is that committee chairs be chosen first, and then trustees select which committees they would like to sit on. So it's just a resequencing of what we currently do. Our rules are silent on it, so it's not a action item, but if trustees desired to flip it, we could do so. So we're just responding to the majority of trustees and what we think might be the preference in terms of a smooth initial meeting. So with that, Mr. Vice Chair, I'm happy to move the report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do we have a seconder? I have Trustee Deeth. At this time, I would look for questions or comments. I see Student Trustee High.
So we would like to thank you for discussing the student trustees and moving motions. However, we really strongly feel that this needs to be revisited. Students weren't consulted in terms of the decision that was made, and we think that there needs to be a more fulsome discussion with students, and the decision needs to be informed by the students because it's something that directly affects them. So right now we're currently in the process of discussing our roles and responsibilities with our senators and are getting really good feedback. Decisions surrounding this matter should be informed by the students, whether that be us coming to governance to speak about it on behalf of the students, or governance coming to us to facilitate a conversation with our senators. It needs to happen. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Student Trustee High. I have Student Trustee Jail next.
Thank you. And just to add on to that, I would like to clarify that by revisiting this and writing a letter potentially in support of Halton's viewpoint, we are not deciding on the implementation of a binding vote for student trustees or deciding on their ability to move or second motions outright. We are simply writing a letter in support of Halton. And ultimately, it will be decided by the ministry. And we recognize that there are many nuances to this decision, that there need to be guidelines and supports put in place, which will be discussed at the ministry level. All that we are asking is that our board revisit this and potentially write a letter in support. Thank you.
Thank you, Student Trustee Jill. Have any other questions, comments from trustees? Trustee Deeth?
I agree that I think it's important that we revisit it with our student trustees to get their feedback around this. Just remembering that supporting the letter that Halton said, Halton's letter was revised from the original letter. So I think it's important that we, working with our own student trustees, that we work together on what that letter should look like if we're going to be sending a letter forward. So.
Thank you, Trustee Deeth. Any other speakers? I see Trustee Johnstone.
Just with follow-up to that, would we need to then move a motion directing this back to governance or back to student senate? How would that work?
Thank you, and I'll look to the chair of the committee, Trustee White.
Thank you. So I think, there's a couple of different ways that trustees could suggest this discussion be forwarded to Student Senate. I think it could be by board motion. It could be simply by the student trustees adding it to the student senate agenda. The difficulty with this item is the actual correspondence was the item from Halton, not the original letter from the Ontario Student Trustees Association. So the Halton letter, like I said, was revised. It only supported one, or a bit of one, of two suggestions. So to have a fulsome discussion, the committee really didn't feel comfortable discussing simply Halton's letter in its narrow scope. So my suggestion would either be, it wouldn't do any, I don't think have any effect sending it back to governance. The governance committee has already looked at the Halton letter. So my suggestion would be that student trustees would add it to their next agenda, and as a board, we could support that discussion through the assigned superintendent or chair of the board or trustee student mentor or student trustee mentor.
Thank you, Trustee White. Trustee Johnstone? Okay. Any further questions? For clarity, Trustee Joe?
Yeah, just for clarification. So after discussing this with our Senate, can we bring it back here and then potentially revisit it again as a board? Okay, thank you.
Seeing nodding heads. Seeing no further questions then, oh, I have Trustee Hicks. Very good.
About 2.5 to 3 hours. Are you suggesting then there'd be a break and the next one would start after, say, 5 o'clock? Okay.
Yeah, through the chair, I think that's entirely correct. I think finance and facilities would be 1 to 3, or sorry, 12 to 3, or 1 to 3, 12 to 3, and then the other one would be like 5 to 8, something like that.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, comments, all in favor of the report? That's unanimous. I'll turn the chair back to Chair White.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Beatty. So item number 8, Finance and Facilities Committee report from November 8th. Go to the chair of the committee, Trustee Hicks.
Thank you. Through the chair, first I'd like to, this has been our last presentation back to the board from the committee, so I'd like to thank the committees for a job well done. Some meetings went for 3 hours, especially the budget meetings. Trustee Bingham, Van Giffen, Danko, Beatty, and Chair White, committee members, they did an outstanding job. I also like to thank the staff for their guidance and patience at times, and the timely reports that came through to the committee. I really mean the patience at times, because sometimes we had to send information back, and they redid the information and brought it back to us. So I thank them very much for that. So with that, through the chair, I'd like to present the report. There's an action item and a monitoring item. The action item deals with going out to public consultation, and it was recommended that staff bring back to the Finance and Facilities Committee the recommendation for budget priorities for public consultation process. Tough time with that word. Monitoring item, the average class size elementary was brought to us, and just to give you a bit of background on it, it was in the original report going out to the trustees, but as an example, the percentage of primary classes of 20 and under, ministry requirement was greater than 90%, and we're at 90.3%. Primary classes 23 and under is 100%, and we're 100% on it. Going down to the average JK and grade 4 and 8 class sizes, for the actual sizes, we're at 24.74 on that. And then also in the report that had the individual schools and the class sizes, if people wanted to revisit that, that was in the original package. And then the last monitoring item would be the secondary enrollment update, and a verbal update will be provided at the next meeting once the numbers come in and they are shored up. And that's the report, and I would remove the report if there's any questions.
Thank you, Trustee Hicks. Do we have a seconder? Trustee Beatty, thank you. Questions, comments? Student Trustee High.
Just a question about the budget consultation process. Is there any way that students or our student senators could be a part of the consultation process for the budget, just so that student voice is informed, or is informing it?
Absolutely. Correct. I don't recall going to them for a specific report on it, but we can certainly do that this year and get you involved. Thank you for the suggestion. It was great.
We'll make sure that's done, absolutely. Go ahead, Student Trustee High.
How do you think we would go about doing this?
How will,
Like making sure that student senators and us as students are informing?
that would go through the chair of the board to make sure that it's on the agenda, your agenda, and then the feedback would come back to the committee.
Yeah, and through our consultations, corporate communications usually leads policy or finance consultations. So we'll ensure that one of the stakeholders is Student Senate. Usually they're a default on there, but it depends on the interest as well as how you want to create that workshop in among student trustees. So we'll make sure it gets there, and then through Superintendent Denemy, we'll make sure that you have a fulsome discussion, and if you want more, then we can really create it around the needs and wants of the student senators. Thank you. Any further questions, student?
I'll take it.
Trustee Johnstone?
I'll take it. Just with regards to under the monitoring item of average class size report for elementary, I'd been looking at the numbers for what the average class size was for our full day kindergarten, which was between
Greater than 26?
right, and I'm just wondering, were classes that were capped at 15, were they also included in that averaging?
Thank you. We'll go to the Associate Director.
Thank you, and through the chair, yes, they are included in that average.
Do we know what the difference is if we're using those 15 and down versus those who are above 15, what the average becomes?
Thank you, and through the chair, we don't have that information readily available, but we can provide it. And I guess the other important thing to note, though, is that there is a new hard cap that's in place of 32, and that really 30 is the cap, but there are a number of small reasons why we can go over 30 to 32. So 26 is the average, but really we only had 5 classes that were over 30.
Just because I know when I was looking at the list overall, there seemed to be a lot more that were closer to, say, the 30 end or maxing out at the 15 to 1 adult. So I'm just, 26 kind of feels like a number that I think most of our classes are not around 26. I think that it's the 15 that's causing the skew, so to speak.
Thank you. Associate Director.
Sorry, we can take that away and bring back those numbers, but from my recollection, I don't think it's making a huge impact, but thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We'll circulate that. We'll follow up on that. Thank you. Further questions? See none. So in terms of the finance report, all in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Final trustee special committee report. Audit committee from November 9th, and with our new chair, although I think this is your second report now as chair. You're getting the hang of it. Item 9, audit committee, November 9th, Trustee Beatty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my pleasure to bring forward the Audit Committee report from November 9th. What trustees will see before them are 4 items, the first being the action item. There's a recommendation from the committee that the annual audited consolidated financial statements of the Hamilton-Wentworth District School Board from the 2016-2017 operating year be approved. And just for context, this is last year's operating year, which goes from September 2016 till August of 2017. A lot of hard work put into this by our business services division through the leadership of Associate Director Zucker. And of course, once approved, these audited financial statements will be submitted to the ministry right on time or slightly early, right, Stacy? And Stacy's very happy that we are right on time or slightly early. You'll also see under the monitoring items, the annual review of the Audit Committee terms of reference. There were no changes made. However, we did ask for some clarification with regards to one of the responsibilities listed for members of the Audit Committee. You'll also see that we confirmed that the board has met all statutory filings and requirements, that will be added to the work plan as part of the review of our work plan that was held. And an update on our regional internal audit team, the senior business officers who have at the helm of the steering committee, I should say, for the West of Centre Regional Internal Audit team had their meeting here in October, and this is the steering committee that guides the Regional Internal Audit Committee, which is based in Waterloo, but does the regional internal audit, serves as internal auditors for the 10 member boards, and we are one of those 10 member boards that gets the REIT out of the Waterloo region. They had their meeting here, and I understand that all is well. Our next meeting will be held on March 8th, and at this time, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to move the motion to accept the report with the action item.
Thank you, Trustee Beatty. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Trustee Van Geffen. Questions or comments? All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Item 10, resolution to committee of the whole private session. As per Education Act 2072B, do we have a mover? Moved by Trustee Beatty, seconded by Trustee Archer. All in favor? That is unanimous. We'll move to the side room and we'll be back in public session when we are complete.
public speak?
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, folks, we're back in public session. Item number 11, we'll begin with 11A. This is our standing committee from last week. We'll ask the vice chair and chair of standing committee to read the report 11A.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my pleasure to bring the committee report from the standing committee held at the last board meeting on November 13th. Trustees will recall we received a report from the consortium with regards to, sorry, we didn't receive a report from the consortium. We received a report about the consortium from Associate Director Zucker. With that, I'm happy to motion that we accept the report as presented.
Thank you. Seconder, Trustee Bingham, thank you. Questions, comments? All in favor? That is unanimous with Trustee Van Geffen out of the room. Item number 11B, this is the verbal report from Committee of the Whole just a moment ago. Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my pleasure to bring the report of private session of Committee of the Whole held earlier this evening, that the Finance and Facilities Committee report from November 8th, 2017 be approved, including matters related to property, that the Audit Committee report from November 9th, 2017 be received, and finally, that the Governance Committee report from November 7th, 2017 be approved.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Trustee Hicks. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Item 12, 12A, Student Trustees Report. We'll begin with Student Trustee Jail.
Thank you. So I will begin with an OSTA ACO update, and Ruby will follow with a local activities update. So the first weekend in November, we attended FGM, the fall general meeting for the Ontario Student Trustees Association, which was held in Toronto over the course of 4 days. Ruby and I both felt that it was a fantastic experience, both in terms of our personal professional development and networking with students in our role across Ontario. We got to hear from a variety of keynote speakers, including a young MPP, the CEO of Sportsnet, Pat Daly of the HWDSB, and the CEO of the standardized testing agency EQAO. We also got to meet with our regional breakout group, in our case the Golden Horseshoe of the Public Board Council, to discuss common challenges and ideas for projects over the year. The conference also included lots of opportunities for networking, in our case with particular attention paid to the sharing of student Senate ideas and structures. Finally, Ruby and I met with our OSTA committees in person for the first time, the Indigenous Relations and Progress Committees respectively, in order to establish our timelines and priorities for the year. We are also currently distributing a survey on behalf of OSTA to senators and the HWDSB student population at large, which will draw feedback on issues facing students provincially and will allow OSTA to advocate for student needs with solid data to back it. We are excited to be working more with our committees in the coming weeks and are already looking forward to BCC's, which is OSTA's next conference in February.
And
Do I have any interjections, or did you want to finish the other report? All right. All right, Student Trustee High, you may continue.
So I'm speaking about Senate. Up to date, we've had 5 Senate meetings, 3 secondary and 2 elementary. At our most recent secondary meeting, we received a presentation from Rob Faulkner and Sarah Buist, who we thank very much for taking the time to spark an important conversation about mental health and about how the board will be engaging in discussions surrounding mental health and mental health issues. Our Senate found this presentation to be very informative in terms of how some initiatives are being taken at the board, and had many criticisms and a lot of feedback about what kind of action to take when starting conversations about mental health. We collectively agreed that in-person student engagement is the best method of initiating healthy conversations about mental health. Specifically, this entails having guest speakers come to schools or engaging in one-on-one discussions with as many students as possible about the relevance of mental health. After this presentation, we discussed how to better communicate and engage digitally with our senators. We talked about using different platforms to ensure that everybody has equitable access to Senate information. We then spoke briefly about the student trustee election process and our term, and received feedback on these topics as well. We also received a request from one of our senators to bring back to the board about the Transgender Day of Remembrance, which is today. He was wondering if trans and pride flags could be provided to schools to fly on occasions such as today, because flags are difficult to obtain for students, and the onus shouldn't be on the queer community queer communities in various schools to obtain these flags and fly them at their schools. So that's it for secondary. In elementary Senate, we engaged in different activities that fostered conversations about school progress and improvement. Senators got to brainstorm ideas about potential solutions to issues faced by their schools. We talked specifically about tangible solutions they could pursue in their schools, such as writing letters to a principal or teacher or starting a petition. We then did a school awareness and unity exercise where students learned about other schools in the board through discussion with their fellow senators. At our next meetings, we'll be discussing a solid initiative to take with both our senates in order to further develop the strength of student voice in our board. So that's it from Senate.
Thank you very much. Trustee Johnstone.
Thank you. I have a couple of different questions. With regards to the Ostiaco report, you'd talked about that you had an opportunity to meet with your regional group to discuss common challenges and priorities. So I'm curious to know what those discussions entailed. You also talked about that you're gathering input via survey to be collected provincially. What are the issues that are covered in the survey? And then after that, I do have one comment or question, I guess, with regards to the Senate report. But we'll start with Ostiaco.
Thank you.
Okay, so your first question about the regional breakouts. So most of our conversations they tended to revolve around mental health initiatives, I think. They're talking about what they're doing with their senates and different ways that they harness usually in the Golden Horseshoe, there are large populations within boards compared to some rural areas. So a lot of them involve reaching out to their broad population to make a solid Senate initiative. Was what it tended to be, and we're involving ourselves in chats with them now still, and it'll be over the course of the year developing relationships with these people. So that was just our first conversation, and there'll be more to come on that. Your second question, the survey. Okay, so it addresses issues such as how readily do students feel they have access to technology in their classrooms, how readily do they have access to mental health support. Those are the two main areas in addressing the survey through various questions. Or do you feel you have access to a breakfast program in the school that you're at? Things like that. Those are the three main areas, I believe, in the survey.
Just with that, just make sure that you're working with your with the superintendent, just because I'm wondering about privacy and whatnot, if data is being collected from our students. So I'm not sure if that's a concern at all, but just make sure you're connecting back. And then with regards to the Senate report, and there was a question raised around rainbow flags, I'll direct this over to the director. Are we able to fly pride flags on our current flag? And if not, would flags be able to just be hung within schools?
Mr. Director?
So through the chair, thank you for the question. 2 years ago, I explored that as we had looked at that for the Ed Center. As you can see, the flags we fly here for significant days. So it's very, very clear from the Canadian flag protocol is that if you have one flagpole, that on that flag must be the Canadian flag only. And secondly, nothing can be flown underneath that second flag. Nothing can be flown under the Canadian flag. Hence why we at the system put two other flagpoles here, and we have the Canadian flag, the provincial flag, and in days of significance, we fly those flags here on behalf of the system has been our strategy to this point.
Just wanted to make sure that that was communicated back, so you could take that back to the senator.
But I'd also suggest if a student wanted to have a flag within the school in an identified space, work with your principal, make the request known, because I'm sure at the end of the day, if there's a challenge financially or getting one, we can break down that barrier, no problem. Further questions, comments? Larry, I think I saw your hand, right?
No, that was my question. I thought we'd had a discussion recently, it had been brought up about getting an extra flagpole at schools for just that kind of a thing with days of significance.
I think you're foreshadowing. Yeah. It's one of those things. To be announced. Okay, thank you. Mr. Director, your report.
So, thank you. It's so I'd like just to give a year in review. When I say year in review, this is our last board meeting before the initial board meeting on December 4th. So it's hard to believe yet another year. Want to highlight some of the celebrations that this board and the senior team should be proud of. Although there's always areas for improvement, and we continue to focus on improvement. Tonight, I'd like to just highlight those areas of celebrations. When you look at positive culture and well-being, proud that we're working closer with our Indigenous community around our land acknowledgement and providing a dish with one spoon wampum belt. So we honor the ancestral lands that we meet upon every day around the Haudenosaunee Confederacy and the Anishinaabe. So through that, we can really embed our diversity training and learn around equity and inclusion. So proud that we're working close with that community. In terms of something we should also be proud of as we look at how our leadership programs that we promote within the board for our leaders are not only being well attended by our staff, there are other people from other organizations who are asking to come and are participating in our board leadership programs, something to be proud of. And we look at positive cultural well-being. The student trustee mentioned this. As we look at participation of our students and staff around voices and trying to gain site-specific data, we need to continue to look at ways that we gather voice that we began last year, and our student trustee has been a leader in this, around students who are feeling marginalized or racialized. So how do we continue to work through that process? And I know there's work coming forward. So that's one of our celebrations, but also an area to continue to improve. Around effective communication, as you know, our goal as we restructured and had communication audit, and we start to see some improvements. Now it's really about looking how we can improve internal, external communication using some of those digital tools. School renewal, you can't help but look when you drive in the community in terms of the efforts of this board, in terms of the fields we see, the science labs, the learning commons, the new builds, the new North School being built. Again, a celebration for this Board of Trustees. When I look at partnership, it can't be reminded, last week there was quite a few events that reminded me again why our graduation rate continues to increase. Yes, the efforts of our staff and our school leaders and our senior team and trustees, but also because of the partnerships that are coming forward. When I was many of us were at the Breakfast for Food for Kids, and reminder of how many thousands of students they feed in our schools each day. At the Bulldogs Literacy Game, a reminder again around some of the key mentors we bring into our schools and that partnership that also supports our nutrition program, over $100,000 a year. And just most recently at the gala, the Hamilton Youth Poets were there, again, reminding us of the opportunities they can provide our students. So again, as we should celebrate that, and our challenge is to continue to look at partners that continue to support our kids with different opportunities that they can shine and excel. So with that, those are my highlights for the year, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Questions for the Director? See none. Thank you, Mr. Director. And lastly, always the most exciting portion of the evening, as you continue to try to stay awake. Yeah. As I'm the only thing standing between you and going home. Just briefly, and I try not to use this opportunity to say a lot. So this is, however, the last board meeting of our cycle, and somehow we've been doing this for 3 years now, which is rather hard to believe. Year one, we went through a number of different directors, finally landed on Manny. Then we spent another year creating our strategic directions, and we've only had them implemented for just over a year now. And here we are, still chipping away at it. And quite frankly, it seems like a long time ago because we've covered so much ground. But since it is the last meeting as well, I do want to thank a number of folks. I want to thank the Vice Chair for his work, of course, supporting the Chair this past year. Has been a great Vice Chair and has assisted quite a bit on all matters. So thank you very much to Jeff Beattie. Also thank you to the Director for his continued and ongoing support, assistance, and work at the board, keeping everyone around the outer horseshoe in line, because, you know, sometimes they need that. They keep you in line? Is that how it works? So I want to thank the Director and, of course, the Trustee Officer, Heather Miller, as well, for all of her assistance to keep all of us organized. I don't know how you do it, but you know what they say. Someone's got to do it, right? So, is that what they say? Yeah, that's it. No, but Heather knows how much he's appreciated, and very much so by everyone around this table, and quite frankly in this room and beyond. Also want to thank the chairs of our committees this past year. It's a lot of work through our structure that we've created here at HWDSB. So I want to thank Wes Hicks for his work at Finance and Facilities, Dawn Danko, fortunately isn't here this evening, but for her work on program, Penny Deeth, HR, Jeff Beatty, Policy Committee, Greg for the portion of the year at Audit Committee. Thank you for your work. But also thank you to all trustees around the table. I think when you measure the success of a board of trustees, you ask yourself, could I walk into any trustee's ward and defend the work that we've done and celebrate the work that we've done? I think we can do that with ease in any area of the city, any school in the city, because when you look at the work that we've accomplished over the past couple of years, the success has been overwhelming. We've had our challenges, but we've met those challenges with equal hard work to overcome them and have put ourselves on a strong pathway. So I'm very proud to say that we have a strong board of trustees where we can do that. We can go into each and every school in each and every area and really feel confident about the work that we're doing. And I think it stems back to our strategic directions. We identified 5 areas, which we hear again and again, and sometimes we just hear the list and kind of forget the work. Manny doesn't, because we made him tattoo those 5 words somewhere on his body. He won't tell us yet, but they're somewhere. But in terms of student learning and achievement, we're seeing those gains. I mean, that report last week that we'll see, I think it must be next board meeting, on student learning and achievement. I mean, that's the best work that I think we've seen in that area for a number of years. Looking at communications and the restructuring and the work under Sean McKillop, we're already seeing that evidence, and we're only a couple months into this school year. So, thanks to Sean as well. Positive culture and well-being. We kicked off the school year at the director's breakfast with that as the theme, and the discussion that started around the whole organization, I think, definitely had quite a bit of movement, knowing that is a priority. That's not just a buzzword that we like to throw around. Facility renewal. I mean, I don't know if you have to say anything more than the fact that we have 8 new schools, builds on the go, and we're asking for 5 more, or whatever it is in our list, a whole lot. But once again, we're not afraid to bite off more than we can chew, because quite frankly, we keep doing the work and we keep producing the results. So very happy with those outcomes, and of course, the partners that we've met along the way. And we've seen an increase in the amount of partners. We're starting to prove around the province that we're able to make the relationships to really create change in this board. And I think not only do we set a good example here in Hamilton, but we set a good example among other boards in this province, and we're not afraid to do that work. So I want to say thanks for all of that. And what I always try to remind myself as well as a trustee and chair of the board is that our focus in this inner horseshoe is to provide direction and focus to those in the outer horseshoe and the rest of the organization. So as much as we can stay focused ourselves, they can stay focused doing the fantastic work on the ground. And seeing how focused they look around the table, looks like we're doing a pretty good job, I'm hoping. Don't jump up and down too high. No? Okay. Is everyone asleep? Oh, no. But anyways, do want to thank everyone. So with that, thanks for a great year. Obviously, coming up, we have a lot more work to do. There's no joking about that. We have, as we went through those lists, there's always continuation, and there's some big stuff we need to do. So while 3 years have been great, let's make it 4 great years, and we'll see where we go from there. So once again, thank you, everyone, and have a great night. Motion to adjourn. Trustee Van Geffen, Trustee Pattison, all in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
from the time